Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70 Millimeter, finally a podcast about movies. Each week, I'm joined by famous artist Danny Haas.
This is like my 1994 Little Women, you know?
And writer, poet, Proto.
You're right. 2001, these guys are bros. 2020, they are lovers.
Later in this episode, we're focusing on the very first Fast and the Furious from 2001. Enjoy.
I have something I need help with.
Okay.
I watched a movie with my kids this past weekend, but I fell asleep about a half hour into the movie. Then I woke up maybe 2 or 3 times more, caught like 5 minutes here and there. It was the BFG.
Oh, God.
It's a Disney flick.
Yeah.
So I caught, some of it. I get to the end of it and I think, do I count this as a watched movie right now? Do I go on my Letterboxd and say I watched this? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what is what are the rules around this kind of thing? Letterboxd doesn't, I don't think they state that anywhere. It might be hidden somewhere. I need help. I need someone to let me know. Did I see the BFG if I saw less than half of it?
First of all, I don't think anyone would openly admit to having seen the BFG. Secondly, this is probably the most important question that's ever been asked on this show. I think I've done this before. Like, we watched Ant-Man back to back, the first one, the second one, and I might have only just logged it without a rating. I generally mark it as watched, but I don't give a rating if I sleep through something. That's happened a bunch for me. That's just my personal rule.
Are you saying you slept through Ant-Man?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a snooze fest.
Well, what if a movie is so bad that you don't even want to watch it anymore, and then you give it a rating? You say, this is a 1-star movie, but you didn't even finish it.
It's a good question.
I think it's worth the 1 star then.
I mean, I didn't finish High Life, and I gave that a 1 star, I think. I shut that off with 20 minutes to go. I'd had it. I'd had enough of the sexual intercourse in the milk room in space. Who directed BFG? Is that Spielberg?
Spielberg.
It is.
What is he doing? What's he doing over there?
Whatever he wants.
He's so horny. He was so horny for those CGI movies for that stretch. What was the one?
Got a blank check.
What was the one that Scorsese did? Didn't he do one? Was that the train movie? Ugh.
I remember watching that, and I wasn't sure if it was CGI or not. I'm watching it. I was like, is this real?
Is
this live action or is this?
He's probably so happy to hear you say that. That's
idea.
Mission accomplished for Scorsese.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the answer to your question, to be honest. You're going to have to do some soul searching, I think,
Well,
yourself.
I'm hoping one of our listeners might be able to help me out.
Leave us a voicemail if you have opinions on how to correctly tag BFG. Wasn't that a book, too? Isn't that some supposed to popular book?
Yeah.
Danny, your thoughts on the book, BFG?
Oh, I haven't read it because I don't read books, apparently. I've been told.
This episode, real quick, if we can just bring it back, Fast and the Furious is our feature prezzo. This episode, as voted on by one person in our Apple Podcast reviews, we randomly selected one recommendation in our Apple Podcast reviews. Thank you for everyone leaving those reviews. Junkie Penguin, FAM, suggested Fast and the Furious 2001. Proto, what is your top 5 Rob Cohen directed movies? Director of Fast and the Furious.
I'm going to say 5 being the Fast and the Furious. And then I don't have 4 others. I don't know what else he's done.
Can you name one other movie?
No.
Triple X.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
That's in the list.
So we're going to get to that roundtable discussion in just mere moments. We have several voicemails to get to from either huge Fast and the Furious fans or people that maybe think it's the BFG of racing films. We'll find out. Next week, however, it's a big one. People have been waiting for this ever since we announced it. My Neighbor Totoro.
My God.
Never seen
Coming
it.
back.
I've never seen it.
I can't believe you've never seen it.
I'm not sure if it's the same director, but it's the same kind of animation style. But I watched Spirited Away once with my dear son. And if we're speaking frankly here, just between us three, I was appalled by that movie.
Okay.
That is an R-rated filth fest. I had to shut it off in front of my dear boy.
That is an Oscar-winning animated movie. Can you have a little respect, please?
So that's next week. I'm very excited to watch for the first time. A lot of people are raving about it in our circles. We talked about Letterboxd ratings. We have a little thing on social media. If you share the show, retweet us, share the IG post on social, and then tag us in the post, you're entered to win a free year of Letterboxd Pro, our favorite social media site. Your life in film. You can rate your movies that you watch, leave reviews as a diary, follow your friends. The winner this week for sharing the show on social media and tagging us at Aldo the Apache 07.
What a name.
He did it. Unreal.
Congrats.
Twitter name. Thank you very much for sharing the show. You win.
Can we talk about Letterboxd for a second? I had an experience this week. You know, when you're in Letterboxd, it's so rich. There's so many features, so many things you can do. And I discovered something this week that just blew me away. So you can set up your services, right? The way you can view things.
Yeah.
So for me, I have like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, whatever else I have. And then so if I'm looking for a movie to watch, I can then go to my watch list and then filter based on my services.
Wow.
So from my watch list of movies that I've said I wanted to see already, I can see which ones are available on the streaming services that I have. And they're all right there. It was beautiful.
I think that might be a pro feature, to be honest.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, I think the Just Watch add-on is a pro feature. So, I mean, we're selling pro right now for you if you're not signed up yet.
It's so good because what else are you going to do? You're going to look at your watch list. You're going to say, "Oh, I want to see that." Well, let me go look around to see where it's available. Spend a half hour doing that.
Worse yet is when you Google something, which I've done before, and Google starts like somewhat suggesting what service is on. It always tells me Hulu has it, but it's never on Hulu because it's like a Cinemax add-on. It's an HBO add-on to Hulu. It's a scam in Google, an absolute scam. Real quick, before we move forward into maybe discussing what we watched this week, or Fast and the Furious 2001, Rob Cohen, Vin Diesel, Dominic. I don't even know if anyone called him Dom in this movie. It shocked me to my core.
They did.
I have finished my journey, my James Bond journey. We haven't talked about it yet in a few weeks, but I have finished the Daniel Craig movies. Just mere moments ago, I finished Spectre.
God, we're proud of you, by the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It was a journey.
It was a long journey. All year it took me. I think I started somewhere around Christmas, January.
I fell off. I was trying to stay neck and neck with you, but couldn't keep up.
It's okay. You'll get there. You still have until November when they push back.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Not Ready to Die or whatever it's called. I've warmed up to Skyfall. I gave Skyfall a pretty porous rating.
Thank you.
I know Proto, I think, hated Skyfall with a passion.
Well, he can't rate it because he slept through it.
Yeah.
That's the rules, apparently.
He had too many chocolate kisses in the theater and he passed out, I think. he's tilting his head back and forth like a bobblehead. That's how you know we got him.
Oh, got him.
But let me just say this. Spectre is a flaming piece of shit movie. I was horrified when I watched that earlier. Terrible. If I were Daniel Craig, I wouldn't want to come back either. I'd be crapping on the movies in the press too. So Daniel, I'm right there with you, buddy.
Who directed that?
Sam Mendes.
What?
The same director as the movie before that, Skyfall, believe it or not.
The same director of our beloved 1917?
And also, Sam and Roger Deakins did Skyfall together. I just blew your mind.
Speechless.
But Deakins did not return for Spectre. I think he got wise to something that wasn't right, and he bowed out. Dan, did you watch anything this week?
Yeah, I fired up mid-90s for the first time. It's been on my watch radar for a bit. Few people, friends of the show, love it. So I figured I'd finally fire it up. It was a short watch. It's a fantastic little movie. I think Jonah Hill did a great job on it. There's an opening shot where it shows the kid's bedroom and it's like Ninja Turtles. And I'm just like, oh, that was my bedroom. I mean, it hit me to the core. It was pretty good. Kind of a sloppy plot, but it was a fun little coming of age movie.
Jonah
did a great job. Cinematography is really good in it. Some great shots.
Has he directed anything else, or was that his
No,
first
that's
and
his
only
only,
so far?
I think one and only. A24 studio.
I read it. I think when he was promoting mid-90s, he was like complaining about a movie that he did for Amazon Studios that he said was his best like acting ever, but they didn't really promote it all. I never even heard of it.
Interesting.
Which I guess rings true to his statement.
It was fun. I mean, if you told me Jonah Hill directed this movie, I would say, yep, this feels like something Jonah Hill would do. So,
Proto, what about you?
Yeah, I watched a couple movies, but our dear friend Catcher recommended a rom-com to me from the 90s. The Mirror Has Two Faces, directed by and starring Barbra Streisand. Ever heard of her?
Have.
Queen.
Love interest, Jeff Bridges.
Oh.
This movie, when they talk about a diamond in the rough, that's this movie. This movie, well, I can't believe I never heard of this. It was a delight. Smart, funny, keep you up at night just thinking about it. Me and my wife, dozens of conversations. We're still talking about it to this day.
Wow.
Holy cow.
I'd never heard of it either.
Yeah, I think it was adapted from a French film of the same name. So those French, they know about love.
They do.
Barbara, she saw it, probably took it. I was like, I'm just do the same thing. So if I can give just a word of warning, please avoid Love Wedding Repeat on Netflix.
Thank you.
Hot garbanzo beans.
Man, what is going to be our first reviewed rom-com?
I thought it was going to be like 4 Weddings and a Funeral or something.
No one
Wasn't that the
agreed to
pick?
4 weddings and a
Was
funeral.
it 4 weddings?
Jesus.
My best friend's wedding?
No.
One of it had a wedding in the title,
Slim always
probably.
does this. He just throws out names.
My sister's wedding. My cousin's second
My
wedding.
best friend's wedding. You're right. You're right.
Wedding in the Winter. These are probably all real rom-com movies. I'm just
4
making up.
weddings and a funeral.
There's another one with weddings in it. All right, enough rom-com business. Should we get into the meat of the episode here?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Dominic Toretto, Brian Spilner star in are the main actors. Fast and the Furious. This movie set the world aflame in 2001. The racing community, the acting community, the women who find Vin Diesel attractive community. They were never the same after this.
The
Can
men
you walk
who
us-
find Vin Diesel attractive
Yeah,
community,
sure.
you know?
Absolutely. The men who find Paul Walker attractive. I think he's a very attractive man. Confident in saying that right now. Let's get into it, bro.
The Fast and the Furious is the longest quarter mile of your life. Brian is looking for the most mediocre tuna sandwich he can find. He has found it right under the nose of Dom Toretto, the most accomplished Honda Civic driving, vehicular Cirque du Soleil, semi-truck thief this side of the Grand Canyon. Is it the sandwich all Brian is looking for? Could it instead be a new pair of sunglasses? A wardrobe makeover? A reason to ruin his career? It's 2001 and Brian is about to find out the meaning of family.
Wow, 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 wow.
Oh, shit. Can't breathe.
Fredo, was this the first time you've seen this movie?
I've definitely seen parts of this. I may have blocked it out.
What's in your
some
mouth
point.
right now?
God, he's just
That's the first question I have.
Just downing chocolate right now.
He's got like he has a hoagie in his mouth right now as he's answering this question.
Listen, I didn't know you were going to be asking me something right off the bat here. I think I've seen this before. It rings a bell, parts of it. So I'll say, yes, I've seen this before.
Thank you for answering that. Danny, you've probably seen this 100 times.
Yeah, easily 100 times. This movie, this was my senior year in high school. So we were all about this movie. I was into cars so much back then, knowing this was coming out, me and my friends. So we had a buddy who was a manager at our local Regal Cinemas. And so almost every Thursday night, it would be like 1 a.m. and he would just kind of let us in and we'd play movies. And whatever the new movie coming out Friday, we'd watch. He just kind of unlocked the doors and let us in and we'd watch movies. Fast and Furious is one of them. And I remember it so vividly because when we were done, we did so many donuts in the parking lot,
Oh my God.
leaving the theater because we were so hype and we were, 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've seen this movie 1,000 times. It's one of my favorites. It's so nostalgic for me that I think that's why I think I overlook how bad of a movie it probably is, but it's just one of those movies that sits so well for me. I love it so much.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've seen this countless times. I had the VHS, I had the DVD.
Oh.
Like, I quoted this movie so often. I was hearing scenes that I haven't even thought of in so long, but I was also hearing quotes that I do now that I have just forgotten that it's from this movie.
Yep.
I was working at West Coast Video when this had come out, and man, this movie, who would have thought that this movie would kick off what we know today as the Fast and the Furious franchise? Like, what a strange statement to think about.
It's crazy.
At the time.
Yeah, it is so weird.
And, Vin Diesel's career, really. Like, I didn't look at his filmography, but what did he have before this? The Boiler Room movie with, do you remember that movie? That's a great movie, too.
Yeah, Boiler Room. I think maybe Knockaround Guys came on after this. Was he in that?
One of those movies.
Was this
he had
pre-Pitch Black?
That's a good question.
I can't remember now.
Maybe if Dale in the studio can look that up real quick and let us know.
He's Googling real quick.
Yeah,
let me check here.
He's looking it up.
This probably is one of the most quotable movies I've ever had in my life. I say Too Soon Jr. Probably to every situation. I mean, I've said it to my kids when they've done something stupid. I say it playing video games. I mean, I quote this movie so much. It's ridiculous.
Yo, check this out.
Let's hear
2000 is Boiler Room, Pitch Black.
Wow.
2001, The Fast and the Furious and Knockaround Guys. And then 2002, Triple X.
Good Lord. He went on a tear. Greatest actor of all time, He's got to hold that belt high.
What a stretch. He also, the main crux of this movie is Paul Walker is an undercover cop and sent to investigate these string of 18-wheeler robberies that are happening. And you don't really know that Paul Walker is undercover until, I don't know, maybe the 15, 20 minutes in the movie. It's a pretty cool reveal. And Dominic Toretto runs this shop. He's an amazing race car driver. He's really popular. He always wins. And these young kids in the town are so enthralled with Dom. And whatever he uses in his race car, they buy. So he has a connection with this parts dealer in town. That's where Paul Walker gets a fake job at to track him. And so the first thing that comes to mind right now is when you actually see them try to rob one of these 18-wheelers later in the movie, is this the worst plan in the history of thieves? What? They're using a harpoon to break the front windows of this trucker? What?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Terrible.
It's 2 harpoon shots to even begin this heist.
Yeah.
One to rip the windshield out, and then one to grapple into the headrest of a seat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so ridiculous.
It's a wonder how it even worked, period.
Of course, the driver doesn't stop. He's just going to keep going, 60 miles an hour, not swerve, not change direction at all, not think hey, you guys have a harpoon gun. Maybe I'll just pull over and give you the truck. We don't have to keep doing this.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It is just I think it comparatively looks worse because of what they're doing in the modern Fast and Furious movies. It's so low rent theft. It was blowing my mind. I was cracking up.
But I almost wonder if that is why this continued, because isn't that the whole sell of these movies, is that you're looking for how are they going to one up each of these movies with the heist scenes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The first note that I have for this movie is Paul Walker walks to the little sandwich shop that what's her character's name? Mia works at. And there's a song playing in the background that brought me back so fast. It's a live song.
We hit the room, me and my crew, and it was cool until we bumped into you. Now it's been years, but there you were, like a Mustang, redlining every single gear with a man that danced like he was born in 49, but lost his groove back in ancient times. I wanna know what those replacement hips is. That a
and Ed, I was a huge live fan growing up, but they got the lyrics to their albums got way crazy. But that is so much of a strange song looking back, live Ed Kowalczyk, not even that, but like a remix of a live song playing in a Fast and the Furious movie. I was like, what am I listening to right now? This is so strange. So eventually you meet the cast of characters. Hector walks over and meets Paul Walker at some point. And I was thinking to myself, Hector, all these scenes are terrible that you're in. Every scene that Paul Walker is in this movie, looking back, man, you are a trash actor in this movie. I couldn't get past it. I was so blown away by it.
Wait, Hector or Paul?
Both. They all felt like scenes like they just did one scene. They're like, yeah, we got it. Let's cut it. That was fine, guys. I couldn't get past how bad some of these scenes were.
Yeah, he has just like a very earnest delivery with all of his lines, Paul Walker. Yeah, he gives a little of intensity, but it's like the same amount of intensity in every single scene. He doesn't have another gear.
Oh,
how about that Ja Rule scene early on? He has a line, man, talk about words of wisdom. I wrote it down. It's not how you stand by your car, it's how you race your car.
One of the things we know is...
Oh my God, that scene too, where he starts getting into the speech with Paul like right away.
So good.
Or when he starts feeling up that girl right outside the car. What is going on?
Listen,
I know
this
you're
is
Ja Rule.
This is that world. Street racing.
Proto and I haven't been a part of the street racing world. This is probably true. This is all
me
real. You're in the parking lot of the Regal racing world doing donuts.
Bunch of white guys in a Trans Am.
So the Johnny Tran is the main villain in this movie. This Asian cat who is part of like some kind of cartel of also illegal activities. And his partner in crime, his like number two, his first name is Lance. What? There's zero chance that guy's name is Lance. That is the whitest milquetoast name you could possibly give, and you give that to Johnny Tran's second in command. Get out of here.
But those snakeskin pants he rocked? You kidding me?
Oh my God, the style of everyone's wardrobe in this movie was out of sight. I loved it. Even Letty.
God.
Who dressed Letty? Did the director say, let's make you as unattractive as possible in this movie, Letty, please?
Kidding me?
She's wearing those...
Oh yeah, when she steps out of the car for the first time, she has these big boots, those cargo pants, some sleeveless tee, and then the cherry on top is the sunglasses in all these all these characters. Are these the worst sunglasses? Like, if you want to look like a complete dork, wear any of these sunglasses.
I'm baffled right now.
Vin Diesel, let's face facts, he looks amazing in this movie. Never better. IMO. He's somehow wearing the same clothes, too. He's wearing the sleeveless, like, white tee with the cross. That is his outfit today.
Yeah.
20 years later.
I'm so jealous.
I'm going to go on the record right now and say that 20 years later, he looks even better than he does in this movie.
My God.
I don't know if that's true. I will say that his double chin has gotten exceedingly bigger in the year 2020, but he's still jacked. He can still jack it. Also, in this rewatch, maybe this is my 200th rewatch, I, for the first time, felt deep sexual love between Dom and Brian in this entire movie. Like, the way that they're looking at each other, you know, at the time, this felt probably very bro-ish, but you could easily say, and maybe there's some like secret Tumblr underground, but like a love affair between these two. Like, this is the Finn and Poe of the early 2000s, in my opinion.
Yo,
Yes.
yes, perfect.
Yeah,
The way that they exchange glances, the way that Dom like sides with him over Vince, their eyes, it was all there, 100%.
are you trying to tell me that Dom doesn't know from the beginning that Brian's a cop? He knows. He knows the whole time. But he can't leave him.
He can't
You're
leave
right.
him.
2001, these guys are bros. 2020, they are lovers.
100%. I'm telling you, you look at this movie with fresh post-Force Awaken eyes, it's 100% real. It's right in front of you the whole time.
You ever try to put the seat of a Honda Civic back? You know how far back that goes?
So eventually Brian gets in the good graces of Dom. He schemes. He saves his life from the drag racing raid by the cops. That one weird dude is like, cops, 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 cops. I quoted that forever. So he saves Dom. Dom gets pissed at his bros, his familia, didn't save him. And he gives Brian a job. He's like, you're working here now. You're working with me. And then I'm like thinking to myself, like, are you giving him a W-2? Like, what does that mean? You're working here. Like, how does he get paid?
You owe me a 10-second car.
That sounded like Sylvester Stallone
that was
doing a Dominic Toretto.
That's the best I got, all right?
You working here now. Oh, so the other scene that I was just like so annoyed that every scene Hector was in, when he came to the shop and told Brian he needed 3 of everything, like it just looked like they did a rehearsal scene. And then that's the scene they chose. Like he came in, he threw him like the wad of cash. I was just so unsettled by the whole thing.
The computer was the main actor in that scene. Banging away on that keyboard. It sounded good though.
The scene after that is when they get mixed up with Johnny Tran. And I think my quote, I'm looking at my notes, is, what are these bozos wearing? Their outfits were so crazy. Just like you said, the snakeskin, lance. God, I wanted to get inside his wardrobe. I wanted to see what else he had
when he
cooking
kicks
up.
off that bike, good lord.
Oh, mamma mia. He's flailing that like Uzi around. How do you even get an
what even is
Uzi?
that guy?
Golly.
Where's he holding it at?
Oh, that's right. He gets off the bike and then he like whips the Uzi out of nowhere. Like where was it resting on the bike? So I actually didn't take a ton of notes. I just kind of basked in the experience of seeing a movie that I'd seen like hundreds of times over with new eyes. Like I haven't seen this in, I want to say maybe 10 years or so. Mm-hmm. But at the time I had seen this so often. The Kiss My Shoes line that Johnny Tran. Oh my God, what a line. Kiss my shoes.
Kiss my shoes.
And then he puts the oil in that guy's mouth.
Wait.
What an uncomfortable scene.
I will say though, that first race scene where Brian loses the car or loses the race to Dom, that scene still looks really good. The effects of that scene, I was like, I like sat up in my chair. I was like, okay, this is pretty good still.
Really,
all the effects, the way it was shot.
There's so much in this movie that really holds up well because they did so much of it practical. I mean, there wasn't much CG in this movie. Cars that wrecked were really getting wrecked. That scene at the end, the semi scene, which is a ridiculous scene, but so much of the stunts, they're strapped to that semi going down the road. I mean, even the actors. It just holds up because it's really happening. Nothing is really faked. I mean, the best parts about that first street race is how well they show the use of speed, the way the speed is outside the cars, and when he shifts and it goes through the gearbox into the engine like when it hits the NOS. I mean, there were some smart choices that still hold up because it's a lot of practical uses.
NOS. That's what I need. I need NOS. I need 2 of these. Yeah, I need 3 of these. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Menage!
Oh my God.
No! Monica!
I love his little move too when he's in the car and he like flexes his shoulders, his little small shoulders.
He kicks his hoodie up. Oh man, yes.
But yeah, when I was younger, like you wanted these cars.
Oh yeah.
These weren't like, obviously eventually you learn to love like really old muscle cars. But at the time, like, man, these are some hot ass cars. Like I would love to have this as my car driving around at the time. And I loved also, at that race that you mentioned when they flash to each driver, you get to see their personality with like what they're doing before the race. Like some kids like playing like Gran Turismo or something.
That was amazing.
And everyone has like a computer that they're flipping up and like doing like setting up their car. It's so wild to me.
And that was the subculture of this. That's why it hits so hard because the cars themselves are not Ferraris and like super expensive cars to make look flashy. You can buy a $3,000 Honda Civic and then dump money into it and make it something that you can race and then you can fall in love with, like it's your toy. I mean, there was like a crazy subculture that this harkens to that really hit hard in 2001. I mean, we don't really see it as much anymore, I don't think. I don't hear the cars with the loud pipes driving down the roads. I mean, it's kind of died off, that scene, but then it was so huge. And I think it's why it resonated so well with such a culture. And even there were like the first opening scene where they block off that road. Those aren't just extras for the movie. They put a call out. Those are people, real people with their real cars pulling up on that street. They wanted to be a part of this. I mean, this movie really touches a lot of stuff for people.
There's a scene later where they do a raid, like Paul Walker's character is getting heat on him from his bosses about like, it's Toretto, you need to get us proof so we can just move in on this team. Paul Walker doesn't really believe that the family, La Familia, is in charge of the 18-wheeler, 16-wheeler, whatever, the truck thefts. And they eventually go raid Johnny Tran's family. And Paul Walker's undercover, but he still goes on the raid. He puts on like a little turtleneck. Like, something goes wrong and your little mask comes down. You ruin the whole operation, Paul. Why are you even going on this raid?
Yeah, that was really weird.
I love that, though, when Johnny Tran gets a slap from his dad.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that was a good slap.
I also like that, too, at Race Wars, where he confronts Dom, essentially about like, why would you do that to me? Essentially, like they broke the unspoken code of like, the drag or the race war like thing where like you ratted me out. Why would you do that?
I never knocked on nobody.
I ain't never knocked on nobody.
Yeah, I might have unloaded 2 Uzi clips into your car, but come on, Dom, why'd you have to do that?
Oh my God. I thought the humanization of Dom's character in this movie was pretty well done. Mm-hmm. Like the cops think he's a bad guy because he beat somebody up within an inch of his life. And then you hear like the backstory, and then Paul obviously kind of falls in line with Dom's crew, and that's kind of kicks off the whole franchise, obviously. But I thought that was pretty well done.
They do a good job because the opening scene when they're robbing that first semi, you don't know it's Dom and his crew. So you still go through the movie where like, is it him? Isn't it him? Like, Paul's undercover, but you don't know yet that it's actually them robbing those cars or the trucks.
Yeah, this has gone on to be a franchise that's huge. And I haven't seen the movies, but of course I always see the trailers when they come out. And the 2 things that seem to have like carried on that were in this movie was the one that we mentioned earlier with the stunts, but then also like this idea that they're all a family. And that is so well laid out in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many scenes, like the barbecue scene, and there's so many lines, like when Dom and Brian are in their garage, and he gives them that whole story about his dad, and how he lost his dad. That just like builds up that character and kind of puts in place this, this history and this foundation. Where usually an action movie like this, they might not even bother with any of that, but it almost seems like, this movie is really about the cars and it's about the action. But by giving it that like thread of story that can continue through all the movies, I'm assuming it seems like it just, it gave it what it needed to like, have people invested in it, in the story.
Yeah. I mean, this is like a 1 in a million movie, like 1 in a billion, like to be able to connect on certain things so well in this one movie, and then to have it spur 9 sequels. The second one Dom wasn't in, right? That was Too Fast, Too Furious, where it was a different who was that? What was the
They introduced Tyrese and Ludacris.
He doesn't come back until the 4th one, right?
Yeah,
and then Tokyo Drift is the third one?
Tokyo Drift.
He has a cameo at the end though.
It's just funny though, because if you look at all the movies, nothing one stands alone apart from everything else. I think everything else, they push the envelope too much, but it still works. It just becomes a lot more ridiculous. I mean, this movie is ridiculous, but there's like this like weird grassroots, like it's this like beginning story. There's no way they knew that what they had was going to be 20 years later making the whatever 9th or 10th film that's going to be coming out, $1 billion franchise. There's no way. So this movie was a one and done, and it just feels so different, so set apart from the next movies that It's just weird how I feel so different about this one than I do any of the other ones.
The end of the movie is this really long, drawn out attempt for them to make like one more hit on a truck, and the truckers have had enough, so they're ready for them with a shotgun. This is the scene we referenced earlier. But they're not even wearing masks during this heist either. They like totally have just like given up.
Mm-hmm.
They're driving around in their car, not wearing protective masks or anything, and then all hell breaks loose. And Paul rescues them after revealing to Maya that he's a cop. And I thought that scene was also really good, like where he calls the medevac chopper in front of Dom and reveals that he's a cop to Dom, and Dom is like,
I thought it was gonna
every
rip his
vein
head
in
off.
his neck is popping out.
Seething like a Proto review.
So then they have the final kind of scene together where they're driving across the train tracks. Paul eventually helps Dom escape into the night, and that's the end of the movie. Fast and the Furious 1.
I'm going to say that the ending of all of this, the whole last quarter of this movie, it makes no sense. They're trying to figure out a way to end this movie, and you can tell, like, we got this far. We don't really know what to do next. We'll have Jesse pull up. Let's kill him. Let's just get it out of the way. And then let's chase after the, Johnny Tran. And then, we get them like, okay, what was the plan of that? Like, why are we doing this? And then they just pull up next to each other. And like, it makes no sense, but it's actually like, there's a lot of emotion in that. The way that for whatever reason, there is some magic in that scene that both of them would decide to pull up next to each other and then have a race right there and then. And it, for whatever reason, it works and it's kind of cool. I'm not going to say it makes sense, but it's cool.
That is Fast and the Furious 1. Danny, what's your rating upon your 200th viewing of this fun adventure racing movie?
This is like my 1994 Little Women, This will never drop star ratings for me. This is always going to be a 5-star movie. The nostalgia level of this movie is up there with The Rocketeer and things I grew up with. There were this is a tentpole movie in my life that was pivotal. And it's so ridiculous to say, but it hit at the right time for me. I love everyone in this movie. Everyone is so good. Paul and Vin, they're just on their game in this one. Everything after this, I don't really care about. I don't ever want to discuss the rest of the Fast franchise because it's ridiculous. But this movie, it's so perfect. I love every scene. I love the cars. I love the culture. I love Ja Rule. It's always going to be a 5-star movie for me. It's never going to change. I could put it on any time of the year and just sit and watch it.
Are we getting Ja Rule onto the podcast to talk about his role in Fast and Furious?
Ja Rule, please.
What else is he doing?
Proto?
I was reviewing my notes and I realized that I think I wrote a poem that I'd like to share with my remaining notes. So this poem is entitled, it's only 4 lines, but it's entitled, I Smell Skanks. The PlayStation in his car, Dat Snapple, those giant decaf iced cappuccinos, how about more butts in leather, ? So this movie, there were some scenes that I really enjoyed. Like I thought that race scene was great. The ending was cool. But my biggest gripe with this movie, and under no circumstance, movies can do a lot of things. You can have a bad movie, but the one thing a movie can't do is it can't bore me. And halfway through this movie, I was looking at how much time was left because I was bored. I was ready for this movie to be over.
And he's horrified.
It just dragged on and on and on. And I just didn't really care. So it's a 2-star movie for me.
Oh my!
For fuck's sake,
Danny, look me in the eyes right now. My nostrils are flaring right now.
I see. I know I said before we recorded, but I am glad I didn't pick this movie to talk about because I would never want to do it.
Never thrust this upon Proto's pen.
I knew this was not even touching 3 stars for him.
Imagine Proto's face watching this at home. It's almost like someone stepped in shit in the house and he's smelling it. He's like, what is that? I am fully aware that I'm watching this movie with nostalgia colored glasses. Mm-hmm. This was a delight to rewatch, and I trashed it on this episode, but that's because I can do that because I love it. And then I've seen it so many times. I do this with like some of my favorite comic books. I can destroy it, but still have an amazing time watching it. I looked back, and I'm not sure if you saw it, but I did rate this at some point on Letterboxd 4 stars. And I don't think I can change that rating because of what this movie was at the time that I saw it and historically like the place it has for me. If I were watching this for the first time, I don't know what it would not probably be near 4 stars. It's only because of how many times I've seen it, how much fun I have watching this movie. It's just so much fun. Rob Cohen, auteur.
He's the pizza guy. You know that, right?
Is he? Unreal.
Streets closed, pizza boy.
Streets closed, pizza boy.
Streets closed, pizza boy. Find another way home.
Ferrari. How about that guy's pronunciation of Ferrari? They don't even. So they beat that guy. They beat that guy and embarrass him, and they land in the shrimp shop. The Ferrari passes them. They get out of their car. They don't even look at the guy in the Ferrari. If I was them, I would have been like flipping that guy off, like grabbing my crotch, throwing a soda in his car.
They didn't need to. They embarrassed him in front of that chick he was driving.
They didn't even look.
They didn't. I mean,
at least like look at him.
They were already miles away. They're walking into the shrimp shop, and he drives by. He's gone.
That was.
They didn't even know he was still behind him.
I couldn't even get over it. Moon him at least.
That orange Supra, kiss me.
Kiss me on the spoiler.
Kiss me on the tailpipe.
Oh boy. Okay, so next week, before we get into our voicemails, next week, My Neighbor Totoro, animated film. Everyone and their mother has rated it 5 stars on the scale. We'll see next week. What is that a character that Danny's holding up from the movie itself on cam?
That's a Totoro right next to me.
If you want to leave us a voicemail, 267-409-6983. And if you want to leave us an audio file, you can do so at 70mmpod@gmail.com. Dear friend of the show.
What is up, guys? It's Andy from Orlando, and I'm so excited for you guys to review Fast and Furious. I love this franchise. I do. I just gotta be honest. You guys are probably laughing at that right now. But the whole franchise as a whole is a lot of fun. But this first one is just classic 2000s. The look, the leather pants, the sunglasses, the soundtrack. I mean, it's just classic 2000s, and you got to appreciate it for that. And let's be honest, there's a better storyline than you would imagine in this movie. And I got to give Vin Diesel a shout out when he finds out, Paul Walker, when he finds out that Paul Walker is a cop. That look of betrayal is so intense in that moment. And so, definitely like the first one, but as a whole, I'm a big fan of the franchise. And so I can't wait to just hear you guys, especially Danny, hear your thoughts on the film. Love you guys. Thank you guys for doing what you're doing. And my favorite one of the franchise, in case you're wondering, is Fast 5. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Andy obviously embellishing that to make up with Danny. I see you, Andy.
How many leather pants does Andy own in his closet that he hasn't touched in 20 years?
Me and Andy now, familia.
Oh, it's finally happened.
You familia.
Let the healing begin.
That's 5. I should revisit that. I don't remember it.
Hey guys, how's it going? Sean from Colorado here, just checking in. First of all, I just want to say I hope the 3 of you and your families are all doing well during this crazy, wild time of COVID-19. On to the movie, Fast and the Furious. Just want to say, when this movie first came out, I played it all the time. It was definitely one of my favorite movies. I love how the start of the franchise got going. Kind of weird at times further on with the rest of the movies, but definitely, Paul Walker and Vin Diesel did a great job. And as the franchise has continued on, the movies are less about believability and more about the excitement and the thrill and what's the crazy thing they can do next time. So that's why I really enjoy it. And that's why I continue to watch all the movies. Also, just want to say, really looking forward to next week's review of Mortal Engines. Girlfriend and I sat down and rewatched it again earlier on this week. Fantastic movie. Can't wait to hear you guys talk about that one. Danny, keep doing a good job with all of the art you keep posting up. Love seeing it all. And can't wait to hear from you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
Sean.
Another love fest for Fast and Furious, you know?
Fast 5 was the first one with The Rock, I think. Just had to quick wiki it.
That's when it started going downhill. I'm just kidding.
Breaking news, as you probably heard at the top of the show, Mortal Engines just pushed off just a little bit. Next week, my neighbor, Totoro. I just want to call out just one real quick, something I saw on Letterboxd this week that really made me feel something. Sean watched 13 Ghosts, rewatched it. He gave a glowing review to 13 Ghosts. I watched it actually the same week. I think I gave it 1 star. Sean gave it like 4, 5 stars. He was touched by rewatching that movie.
I don't even know what that movie is.
13 Ghosts is...
Jesse in it?
I don't even know how to describe it. There's an actress in 13 Ghosts that was popular for a hot minute. Shannon Elizabeth was in it. Remember her?
No.
Matthew Lillard.
Oh, I love Matthew.
I can't stand Matthew Lillard on screen. No, he's just so weird and like, I'm weird. My Matthew Lillard.
Shaggy?
Get it, you know? Next voicemail.
All right, guys. Fast and Furious. The beginning of the Fast and or Furious saga that has gone on. The late, great Paul Walker, best known for his role in She's All That, doing a tour de force performance. It's basically Point Break. It's Point Break in cars, and they're stealing DVD players, if I'm not mistaken. This is the beginning of like 9 movies where now they're dropping out of airplanes and driving on glaciers and just utter madness. Who would have thought when this ridiculous movie came out that there would be 9 of them, and that it would reinvigorate the entire car racing, car culture genre. It's very cool movie. Weird, kind of dumb, but cool all the same. It's a bad movie. It's not good. It's not a good movie.
Oh gosh,
it's not good at all.
This is taking a turn.
Anyway,
wow.
Thanks again for this awesome podcast you guys do. This is Brian. Goodbye.
It was Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Insulting Danny at the end of that voicemail.
It took a quick turn. I thought he was in love with this movie.
No, it did not.
Yeah, he brought up a good point, though. How about them stealing the truck that had about 13 TVs in it when they opened it? Very strange.
Well, back then, those are expensive TVs, Proto.
Okay.
Remember
I just looked up Paul Walker. He died in that tragic accident, but that was back in 2013. I feel like that was man, I can't believe it was that long ago already. I feel like that just happened.
Yeah, weren't they filming like Fast 7 at the time or something? And they had to really try to fix it.
At the end of it, I'm pretty sure, I can double check, but they had his brother, who was close to his same build, do the scenes, and it was one of the first CGI faces put on a body like that. Mm-hmm. So they put Paul's face on his brother's body.
Yeah.
99%.
I think he even looks like
Paul, it's very
too.
close. They're very similar.
Final voicemail, and this is from Fam, who was the one recommended Fast and Furious in our Apple Podcast reviews. He did this to Proto.
Hey guys, it's Fam. Thanks for taking my call and thanks for picking my movie. I'll be totally honest, once I heard this was my movie, I was excited, but then I felt like I should have picked a more obscure movie. But then I heard Proto say he's never seen it and it was now totally worth it. So this is why this movie is cool to me. So having spent years working on cars and showing cars at car shows, this is the first movie that represented that. Each character had their own car. It was part of them and it represented them. You see that car driving on the street in the movie, you know who's in that car. This is very much a movie of its time, though, being it's the year 2000. Yes, it's Hollywooded up. Some of the dialogue and music is very cheesy, but the thing is that they focus on the cars and the car culture so much more in this movie than in the current one. All this over what the movie really is, which is a classic undercover cop infiltrating a gang to stop a robbery movie. Only this gang is very much family, very much kind of like a Point Break-ish kind of movie. Things like SR20 motors, T4 turbos, direct fuel injection, other things you wouldn't hear in a normal crime heist movie, but fit perfectly fine in this movie is kind of what makes it stand out. The feeling of watching this movie opening day with a theater full of tuners was nuts. For example, when the Ford Lightning curbs the sidewalk when it parked and you heard that scratch, everyone in the theater literally audibly freaked out. Like it was like a murder happened on screen. It was that crazy. So it was very, very cool to kind of everybody feel the same thing. The current Fast and Furious movies were known for more of its insane physics-defying action scenes than anything. This one really didn't have that as much, though. The only very ridiculous part of the whole movie was the first drag race, because that street might have been the longest straight line road on the planet. It was so long. But there's one scene in the movie that stands out to me. It's when the Ferrari pulls up to the Supra and thinks he's better than them just for spending more money, and then they race. So, of course, Saliva Superstar is going to play right there because, of course, it's the 2000s. Yeah. But the scene was a great representation of how you drive the car that matters and not how much money you spent. Also, the bad guy in the movie, Johnny Tran, is great. This dude was literally feeding oil down a guy's throat to interrogate him. This movie actually helped him get his part as Zhao in the Bond movie Die Another Day. So here's the big breakdown of all the Fast and Furious movies, if you guys didn't know. So the first movie was leaning more towards the car scene. The second movie, it did so well. The second movie took what it did in the first movie and just kind of cranked up the action. Still very much focused on cars. The third movie around 2006 was when the drifting scene was really, really big. So that's why Tokyo Drift came about, because that was the major car scene at the moment. Everybody was kind of building drift cars. The fourth movie was set in the desert. And they kind of brought in some rally cars and rally races into it. So that was kind of leaning more towards that.
Desert fashion.
After that, it was more focused on all the movies after that, though. It was more focused on the family and insane action, which is great. But it was way less focused on the actual cars themselves. For the Fast and Furious movies, any of the movies, I recommend seeing it in a 4DX if it's in your area. So this is where you can feel the cars moving and the fight scenes move in your seat.
Oh my God.
You really, really feel it in the sense of there was a Vin Diesel fight scene where they were punching and my kidneys were literally getting beat up. And at the end of the scene, my kidneys were hurting because it was so realistic. It was just like Vin Diesel was punching me. But it was a great, and I definitely recommend that for everybody. Thanks for picking my movie. Love you guys. See you later.
4DX. Is that the one where like they spray water on you too?
Yeah,
if it's like raining?
We've done it before. It's intense. I don't recommend it, actually.
You know what? I love when someone loves a movie or loves something like this. So, fam, thank you. It's great. I mean, it's great to love movies that deeply and to connect with them. And it's beautiful. I'm glad that we actually did this because it meant so much to fam and so much apparently to you guys.
Thank you for the kind
Thank you.
passive-aggressive words, Proto, as always. Speaking of love, how about the response to last week's Dune episode? We worked together to try to connect with the marketing folks at Vanity Fair. They put out the press that same week as our episode. Couldn't have timed any better.
Shout out to our producer, Dale. I know he had been really the past, I think, 6 weeks, just lining things up, getting everything ready for this big Monday. And kudos, Dale. Your work
paid off.
It paid off.
Real quick, if we can get before we wrap up, the Proto pulse on the photos revealed from Denny's Dune. Jesus. The press photos from Vanity Fair.
I choose to believe right now. I have faith. I have hope. That's all I can do right now. Denny, let's be honest. He hasn't done anything wrong yet. He's batting 1,000. Why should I doubt now? No one's been able to do Dune before. No one. No one has done it. But if somebody were to come along and do it, it's the man who has never failed. So what happens when you have an unstoppable force meet an immovable object? You tell me, and we'll find out in December.
Sounds like Proto's cutting a promo on me. It's like he's in the squared circle right now, and he's talking to his opponent coming to the ring.
I'm in a Melage trance.
Next week, My Neighbor Totoro. Big episode.
Ooh, our first animated.
Yeah.
That's exciting. First and last.
Oh. Listen, I can maybe I'll reveal this week that I thought of a movie for us to add to our list that I said it to you guys already, but not the listeners. Last Action Hero starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nobody talks about that movie anymore, but they should. Maybe we should kick off the discussion again.
You know what's funny is I get scenes of it mixed up with Jingle All the Way.
Okay, next week, big show. Thanks everyone for sharing this show on social media, spreading the word. It helps people find and discover the show. You know, it's not every week we can do a co-op with Vanity Fair. It was a one-time deal. It's really wiped out our budget.
Our TeePublic budget.
Yes, by the way, you can buy 70mm pod shirts on our TeePublic, which is linked in the episode notes, and a rare logo that has never been before seen of 70mm. When are we going to get the VHS Village logo up there?
I know. We'll talk to producer Dale.
Talk to our lawyer real quick. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next week. '70mm is produced by Dale_A and sponsored by Half Double Design. Original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance provided by Protolexis. This episode was mixed and edited by me, Slim. Special thanks to the good people at Letterboxd, and for a chance to win a pro Letterboxd account, share the show and tag us on social media at 70mm pod. Goodbye.